Well, Tony and I were having a great old time before I started this recording, and we were talking about Airbnb and some of the changes that are happening in Airbnb. One of the things I mentioned again before we started recording was that the upper end of Airbnb seems to be experiencing really significant growth. In other words, catering to families that are traveling together. So instead of having an Airbnb destination that can accommodate a couple, two people, or two people with three kids, so five. You're often finding families traveling together, and as a result, there's demand for places that can accommodate 10 or 12, 18 or 20, and it's quite a different market, and it's an interesting market, and I'm going to do something with it. But one of the things that Tony has asked me to do, which I didn't do before, I didn't record the last time we went through it, was what to do with 8 Washington in Norwich. I think I just lost Tony. Sorry about that. I hope Tony will join us again, but I'm going to continue on with the recording because he asked me to. So Tony and Rose own this property in Norwich. And I'm just trying to find the picture that I wanted to show you. I'm going to share my screen with you. That's not a very good picture. I'm going to work on that again. Give me a second here, guys. It's not there. Let's try here. Okay, this is better. So we're going to look at this. I'll share my screen with you, and I hope I share the right screen because I'm not on my normal. I think this is it here. On my normal computer system, somehow or other, our internet cable got cut today. So what we have here is a property 8 Washington Street in Norwich. You can see it here. It is a home on quite a large lot. And if you look over here to your right, it's quite a commercial area, which I think is good for an investment property like this. I'm just panning around here, and you can sort of see there's some nice residential development around it. And we'll just keep going here for a little bit more. So you can see that. That's kind of cool. Next door, it looks like almost like an old barn, probably is an old barn. And then here we are back to Norwich. And I'll see if I can go to the isometric view here, or maybe, yes, there it is. So you've got here, you've got the single family home here. Then you can see on the right-hand side, you've got Shoppers Drug Mart, and I think there's a grocery store here and a bunch of other stuff. And what you have is also in the backyard is you have a large workshop. So Abe, can you just close the door just because I'm on the call here? Thank you. Sorry about this. It's a very chaotic environment right now. All right. So Tony and I then did some cases. All right. So we booted up some spreadsheets, and I'll see if I can find it. Okay, here it is here. So this is case 1 of 8 Washington. The purchase price for this particular home is $520,000. Land transfer tax is just under $7,000. Legals and disbursements, that's just a guesstimate, $3,000. So the cost to complete this particular transaction is $529,000. And the plan is to create a bachelor apartment, so almost a microsuite. And I did have a couple of pictures that I wanted to show, see if I can find them. Here they are. So what does a bachelor suite look like? Well, this isn't actually the best rendition of it, but it's interesting anyway. So what is happening is that home builders are now discovering the power of having a basement apartment, which can accommodate a multi-generational family, or after your kids move out or your grandkids have moved out, you can rent out and you have some additional income. But in addition to that, you can have what's called a microsuite or a studio apartment or a 1-bedroom apartment on the main level. Tony, are you back with us?
Yeah, my apologies. I'm back now. Do you mind if I keep my camera off just to, because it seems like my signal's kind of weak?
No problem.
Okay.
Just so you know, while you were away, I was still recording. And I've been talking to myself, but it's okay. I've done that once or twice. All right, turn your camera off, brother. All right.
Awesome.
All right, so what I'm showing here on the screen now, Tony, and is a lockoff suite. And I was saying that developers are becoming smarter as they go. They are introducing basement apartments, microsuites at grade. And here's one that I actually stole from the internet that I quite like. It's not really a microsuite. It's a full studio apartment at grade. And you can see here, you come up here on the porch. This, the blue area is your micro suite or your studio apartment or your lockoff suite. It's got its own entrance to the outside, which is important. And then you come in here, you've got your living room here, you've got your kitchen here, it's quite small, I call it a micro kitchen here, you've got your own bathroom here. And in this case, it's not truly a studio because it does have a bedroom here. And look at this, Tony, it even has a garage. You can see the main garage, if you can see my cursor moving around, is here, a 2-car garage. Over here is a 1-car garage. This is the first time I've ever seen a design for a lockoff suite that had its own garage. And I thought it was really, really clever. So I wanted to show this and record it today. But you don't necessarily need to have a bedroom. It could have been a studio apartment. But what's really cool is you can come in here, park your car, come in here, there's your bedroom, there's your bathroom. You can drop your coat off, your boots off, whatever. Come in here, here's your living room, there's your main front door, and there's your micro kitchen, but it also has a connecting door to the main house. So think about the utility of having this kind of a bachelor suite where, and let's look at some of the different uses for it. So maybe grandma can live here. Maybe she's having some mobility issues and she wants to be close to the family, but she wants to have some independence. So she can, if she's a go-go elder, she can have a car and you know, she can have her own visitors. But when she wants to visit the family, she just goes through the connecting door. She wants privacy, she can lock that door. And if the kids or the grandkids want to visit grandma, that's possible. Now, once grandma leaves, that obviously can be rented out to somebody else. So what is possible now in Ontario is you can now have, in many, many places, you can have these lockoff suites as long as they're part of the main house and they don't count as another unit. So you could have, in theory, a basement apartment, a main house like this with a lockoff suite, and even a coach house in the backyard. So, all right, enough of that. So I'm going to get rid of that. And I'm going to go back to the spreadsheet that we were talking about. So this is case 1. You can see it here. And we talked about earlier what it costs to buy this place and then maybe to renovate a bachelor. The one that I just showed, Tony, is not a $30,000 bachelor, but a micro suite, which might be anywhere from as small as 145 square feet to as large as 300 square feet. That you can usually do for anywhere between $25,000 and $40,000. And many of these are furnished. So we put in Tony and I put in a budget of $30,000 for that. And then Tony wants to spruce up the house and improve its curb appeal. So we put in $25,000. These are allowances. And then in the backyard, as I pointed out when we looked at the aerial photograph, there is a workshop. So maybe that should be renovated. And the reason I like the workshop idea for the detached garage in the backyard is there's a huge demand for this live-work condition. So say I run an HVAC company, a heating, ventilation, and air conditioning company. I'm an electrician, I'm a plumber, maybe I'm a yoga instructor, whatever. Having a backyard workshop is a huge plus. It's a live work condition. So your commute to work is out the back door and there's your workshop. I have a number of these in my portfolio and I advertise them and I usually get anywhere from 3 or 4 to 6 or 7 applications right away. People love that live work condition. And it's even before the pandemic struck, it was there. But now with work from home, it's off the charts. And the reason that somebody might want a backyard workshop, even if it's a work from home, is if you have 5 kids like I do, it's not easy to have your office in your home. Your little kids are coming in all the time. Dad, Mom, I need some help with this or that. So having a little bit of distance, but not very far, is actually a plus. So anyway, workshop, a reno, some insulation, some heat, add some water. We don't generally put sewer to the workshops because that's quite expensive to do. Adding water is easy. Sewer is a little bit harder. And if you want to have a bathroom in your workshop, we're using composting toilets very, very successfully. So, and they don't cost that much. And there's some really good ones now. So a little bit of paint, a little bit of light, and improving the access with some gravel. So that would be a $629,000, almost $630,000 cost. We put in a 12% contingency allowance. So the total cost comes out to $641,875. Then renting the bachelor apartment, maybe we get $1,500. The 4-bedroom house, we get $2,500. And then this workshop in the backyard is so big that you can divide it into two, which I think is a good idea. So maybe on the smaller one, you get $650, and the larger one, you get $1,100. So now you're getting gross operating income, GOI, of about $5,750, and we're taking off 34% of that for operating expenses. OPEX is operating expenses. So that's insurance, property taxes, any utilities you have to pay, repairs and maintenance, a vacancy allowance, property management, all of those things. Nothing to do with mortgage, so it's just your operating expenses. That gives you a net operating income of about $3,800 a month. And that works out to about $45,000 a year of net operating income, which if you divide it by the cost of buying it and renovating it, gives you a cap rate of about 7.1%, which is actually quite good. I've established a minimum for myself and my clients in North America, that is in Canada, the United States, and in Mexico, of 6%. So at 7.1%, you're significantly above that. And I asked Tony when we first did this, what the fair market value, the selling cap rate or the valuing cap rate would be. It's around 5%. So it's pretty easy to figure out then what this property should appraise for after the renovations are complete and after it's been rent stabilized. All you have to do is divide the actual net operating income by the fair market value cap rate, and you get $910,800. So it should be worth over 900 grand. And you remember your cost is about 641. Now, just because you valued it doesn't mean you're selling it. I'm mostly a buy and hold guy. And by that, I mean, if I buy 10 properties, I'm probably going to keep all of them or maybe sell one or two. Why would I sell one or two? Because if a property has kind of plateaued in value, it's gone up a lot in value, but it's plateaued, and the cash flow has gone up, but it's plateaued, and you think that you could sell it at a very good price, make a capital gain, and then reinvest that in a property that has more appreciation, more room to grow, both in cash flow and in value, then you might do that. But mostly it's buy and hold. And then every once in a while, you look at your portfolio, you say, yeah, that one has probably plateaued. I might sell that one. So that was case one, which was a pretty good result. I thought that was excellent. Now, let's look at, if I can find it, see if I can find case two. No, that's case four. I don't want case four. We'll get to that eventually, I suppose. Which one is this? Well, we've already dealt with case one, so I'm going to close this so I don't open it again. Let's go to case two. Hopefully this is case two. Yay. This is case two. So it's very similar to case one, but I did something here that was really actually pretty cool. And I introduced Tony and Rose the last time we talked to something called a percentage rent. I'm going to stop sharing just for a moment so you can see my handsome face and one more time. So what is a percentage rent? It's kind of a commercial concept that we borrowed into the residential space. So I've got a lot of commercial experience, so I kind of borrowed it back. And what we talked about is if you rented, say, part of the house to a mechanic, an auto mechanic, and he said, yeah, this is great. I'm going to set up my repair shop in the backyard at one of those workshops. Great. I've got a number of those people in my client base, and I like renting to them. Yeah, I know everybody says, well, you got to be careful about spills, but yeah, I mean, if you rent to a responsible person, they're very careful and they don't mess up your property, but you've got to inspect at least once a year. All right, so let's say we rent to an auto mechanic, and I would rent to an auto mechanic, but I would also ask him or her, there's some ladies, but mostly guys, I would say to him, do you sell cars? Do you have your ONVIC license? That means the Ontario Motor Vehicle license, so that you have to be licensed to sell used cars. I mean, you can sell your own used car, and I think you're allowed to sell a few on your own, but if you're going to sell 4 or 5 a month, you definitely have to have a license in Ontario. Probably a number of states and provinces are like that. So one, you rent to a mechanic. Two, you ask him if he does car sales, and you ask him if he has his ONVIC license. If he answers yes to all of that, then you say, great. I'm encouraging you to do that, because it is a significant, I'm going to go back to sharing now. It is a significant revenue generator, not just for him, but potentially for you as the landlord. So let's say your mechanic makes 5 sales a month. And the average used car, they're pretty pricey these days, is at least $6,500. Means he is selling $32,500 a month in used cars. And you've got to remember, these mechanics will often find a car at an auction, or somebody will show up and say, look, I've got this junker, I can't really do much with it. Do you want it? And give me $500. So you pay $500 for it, fix it up. Maybe it costs you $1,500 to fix it, and you sell it for $6,500. It's a real profit center for these people. And what I put in here for Tony and Rose is, if they have a tenant like this, let's put in a 4% percentage rent, so that the landlord gets a percentage of their revenues. So that adds very significantly to the rent that they get for their workshop. So they get their base rent and their percentage rent. Now, people always ask me about, oh, how do you police that? Well, what we put in the lease agreement is that the landlord has the right to audit the mechanics books, usually twice a year, which is probably more than I do. I probably would only do it once a year. That's because I'm lazy. But very, very, very few people will cheat on that. Some will obviously cheat on that, but most will not, because they really like the idea of having a business that's more successful. And 4% is not, it's really not worth cheating, especially if you get caught, right? So this live work thing is also, I want you to think about it in another way. The apartment is what rich dad, poor dad, Robert Kiyosaki would say is a liability. So the apartment, you have to pay money out of your jeans, right, every month. The workshop is an asset, because hopefully you make money every year or every month. So if you have somebody who wants a live work condition, and they have the apartment and they have the workshop being an asset, they're not going to move. So you're not going to be replacing your tenants every year, or every 2, or even every 3. They're going to stay for a long time. You've given them an asset to help them with their rent. All right. So if we look through that, then with a better percentage rent, we've boosted the cap rate from 7.1 to 8.7%. And now the property is worth over $1 million, in fact, over 1.1 million. So that's really good. Now I'm going to close this file. So that was, I think, case 2. Now this, I screwed up there. Let me see if I can get case 3. No, that's still case 4. Okay, this is 3. All right. So what is case 3? Well, I'm going to go back to sharing my screen. All right. I think it's this one. So what did we do? Oh, heck. Sorry about this, you guys. This is case 3. Yeah. So what did I do here? Oh, I don't know if this is possible. Okay, now we might be in fantasy land, Tony. But one of the things, when I looked at the amount of commercial development, the Shoppers Drug Mart next door, and there's lots of other commercial development here, I thought, wow, wouldn't it be great if there was room on this property, because it's a pretty big property, to add a food truck. I happen to like food trucks. And if you did that, and you had a percentage rent and the base rent, you could add another $1,200 a month to your income over the year, which would boost your cap rate to 10.2%. And anytime you can get a cap rate into double digits, that's really good. And now your property values reached 1.3 million, which is really fantastic. That's a home run, I think. Now here's case 4. And I gotta try and remember what I did here, Tony, because whatever I did here got us to almost a 12% cap rate and over $1.5 million valuation. And let's see, we had the food truck, we had the workshop, the bachelor. I think
we were talking about skunk works, that sort of thing at that point.
Oh, very good, very good. I'm so glad you reminded me, Tony. So what we did here, and that's really, I mean, you got a hell of a memory, because well, maybe I don't. So what we did was, we said, what if we put the bachelor apartment on Airbnb? And I asked Tony in Norwich, what can you get for that? Maybe $95 a day, 75% of the year. So it gives you a little bit more revenue for your bachelor. But what was interesting was, I told Tony about friends of mine who are in a small town. I think it's even smaller than Norwich, Tamworth, Ontario, where they did something similar, where they had the Airbnb, but it wasn't just for, a 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom, 4-bedroom house or apartment. It was for an apartment and a workshop. And Tony said, what the hell? Why would anybody need a workshop? Here's why. There's a lot of tech companies and other companies, large companies, that will break out small teams to do a skunk works. In other words, to get out of the main, out of the mothership, go somewhere where they can focus on a project for 1 or 2 months or 3 months. And I think the guy who made the skunk works the most famous was Steve Jobs when he was at Apple. He was famous for taking his best coders and others as product managers into an offsite, and they would spend months developing amazing products. And it was a focused effort away from all the distractions, away from the wives, the husbands, the girlfriends, the boyfriends, the bill paying, all the other stuff that goes with life. You'd go away for 3 months and come back with some extraordinary product. So they've done this in Tamworth very successfully. And so when you do that, it boosts the cap rate up to almost 12%, and the property value over $1.5 million. So it gives you an idea as we walk through it of some animation ideas. And Tony, people are probably sick and tired of hearing me say that zoning codes are so prescriptive in so many cities and towns in North America, and in fact around the world, that we're really damaging the creativity and making our cities more interesting and more livable. I mean, so what if you have a food truck here? So what if you have a workshop at Airbnb, a skunk works thing happening? So what if you have a lockoff suite and all the other things that we talked about? These are good things. It animates a town. It makes it more interesting. If you go to the older parts of almost every town in Turkey, in Australia, in Japan, in China, in so many European cities, and older parts of Canadian American cities, you kind of go, this downtown is so exciting. But what makes it exciting, in Ottawa, we have a neighborhood right downtown. It's called the Glebe. It's very exciting. And property values have gone nothing but up. But if you walk through there, you're going to see a mechanic shop. You're going to see a restaurant. You're going to see an apartment above a garage. You're going to see an apartment in the attic. You're going to see a coach house in the backyard. You're going to see a metal bashing shop somewhere along the line. You're going to see offices. You're going to see people doing all kinds of things. And then you go to a suburb and all you have is these, McMansions, one after the other, but really nothing happening. There's nothing interesting. You can't go to a shop. You can't go to a doctor's office. You can't get your fortune told. And the Glebe has all of that. And it has a major stadium. It's called Lansdowne Park. So you've got all kinds of things. And when people walk around the Glebe, they go, this is a very walkable neighborhood. It's exciting and lots of action happening. But if you ask those same people who maybe live in a suburb, could we put a coach house in the backyard? Could we put a workshop in the backyard? Could we add a lockoff suite? Could we add some of these animations? God forbid you should ever ask for a food truck. They go, oh my gosh, no, it'll hurt our property values. Far from it. You go into these downtown cores that are full of excitement. Those property values are not going down, fellas. They're going up. Sony, was that helpful?
That was amazing. Thank you for walking through that. There was I'll turn my camera back on here.
Thank you.
Are we good?
Yeah, so far.
Yeah, so I was having a hard time remembering all of that, but now that you went through it, I can see it's all clear again. So yeah, that's really interesting, unique, and innovative ideas that really takes a creative mind. So thank you for that.
Well, one of the things I've asked you to do, Tony, and as a coach now, real estate investment coach, I've asked over 2,500 people in the States and in Canada and overseas to some extent. Right. I've asked them to push the envelope. And there was a study done by the University of Chicago, it's the last 10 years anyway, which showed that if the zoning codes in 2009 had been as permissive as in 1965 in just 3 places, New York, San Francisco, and one other city, I don't remember which one, the US GDP, the American economy, would be 30% bigger. When I read that, I said, that can't possibly be right. Just think about that. The zoning codes have become so prescriptive that 40% of the buildings built in Manhattan couldn't be built today. 40% of Manhattan be wiped out by modern zoning codes. That is a huge mistake. And so I've asked all my acolytes, my disciples like Tony here and Rose and others, to push back. And as I mentioned to you, I wrote Twilight Zone. It's a book I wrote. I just finished it. And it talks about how modern zoning codes are ruining our lives. They're ruining our cities. They're making it so that you have a suburb. We have a brand new suburb in Ottawa with 3,500 houses in Barrhaven in a row, 3,500 single family homes without a single store, without a doctor's office, without a dispensary, without a physiotherapy clinic, without a place you can go with the kids and play mini golf. I mean, something to do. I don't know, whatever you like doing, that is terrible planning, where every trip is a car trip. And they make, they do these, we used to build roads systems as grid, right? So every street had a little bit of traffic. Now we have these collector roads and we have these loops and these P loops, so that we have all the traffic has to go on one. So if you are living here and your kid's school is over here and it's like literally a 5-minute drive, by the time you go all these loops, it's 25 minutes or 30 minutes. So it's environmentally unsustainable. And every trip is a car trip, and there's no such thing as public transit that makes any sense on these P loops and these roads. One of my friends is a counselor for the city of Ottawa, and he lived in Canada, which is the west end of Ottawa, and he told me, I think it was either 11 or 12, to get into his house, he had to do 11 or 12 right turns, and to leave his house, he had to do 11 or 12 left turns, right? There were so many loops. And he said it drove him and his wife crazy. They would literally count down. Okay, that's 9, that's 8, 7, and it just drove them absolutely wild. And they had to sell their house after 2 years. Every trip was a car trip. Your kid can't visit, his school, can't visit the playground without, because these collector roads are 80 kilometers an hour. That's, for our American viewers, that's 50 miles an hour. You don't want your 7-year-old crossing a 50-mile-an-hour street. I mean, it's ridiculous. That collects 8 or 10,000 vehicles an hour going by at peak times. That is ridiculous. That's not a suburb that is working, and it's just completely unsustainable. And everybody knows that we built better towns in the 1890s, 1880s, 1870s than we do today. You look at some of the old towns in North America that were built in the 1870s through to about the 1930s. And they're far better designed.
Certainly, I see what you're saying there. It totally makes sense.
So all I'm saying is that, you're now in the Prof Bruce army. I just drafted you.
Yeah. I'm a soldier in the Bruce Army. Let's go.
The Bruce Army. Oh, there you go. I like that. All right.
Yeah.
So I'm going to stop recording now. Okay, Tony?
Yep. Sounds good.
All right. Hang on a second. Oh, I got to stop it up here.